Look closely at this expanse of cracked earth and sand. There is no movement, no vegetation, and absolutely no visible sign of life. But buried just beneath the surface of this soil is a biological time bomb. Insect eggs can sit perfectly dormant in this dry dirt for 20 full years. The desert locust is wired to wait. It survives the harsh environment by perfectly pausing its own development until the exact moment the weather shifts, and then it multiplies at a terrifying speed. We will track the precise chemical and meteorological chain reaction that turns a 20-year-old egg into a ravenous, continent-spanning superorganism erupting from the dirt. This synchronized eruption functions as a biological explosion triggered by a single atmospheric spark and 2 decades of dormancy. The awakening starts on a microscale. The dormant eggs split open, releasing young juvenile insects. At this early stage of their life cycle, they lack wings and cannot fly, earning them the name hoppers. To find their very first meals in a vast desert, these hoppers rely on a highly specific tracking system, navigating entirely by smell to hunt down freshly sprouting grass. Normally, a hopper needs 4 solid weeks to mature into a winged adult, but when rain hits the desert and provides perfect, resource-rich conditions, their biology shifts into an accelerated growth phase, compressing that standard timeline drastically. This hyper-accelerated growth creates a rapid mathematical problem. Thousands of hungry insects quickly strip their immediate, localized starting ground completely bare. As the vegetation vanishes, the newly winged adults deploy an emergency biological SOS. They release pheromones, invisible chemical scent messages pumped directly into the air to alert the rest of the group. Hitting the airwaves with that chemical scent triggers an immediate behavioral shift. The insects stop foraging as solitary individuals, packing themselves together to mobilize as a single unit. The combination of intense hunger and chemical communication overrides their natural isolation, physically merging a scattered population into a highly synchronized swarm. An adult locust carries a staggering metabolic burden. To survive, it is biologically required to eat its exact body weight in food every single day. When you scale that appetite up to a newly merged swarm, the group can devour hundreds of tons of vegetation in a matter of hours. To avoid starving to death, they have to stay in perpetual motion. But flying against the wind requires massive caloric output, so they conserve their energy by surrendering entirely to the air currents, letting the wind physically carry them across the landscape. This passive drifting is a highly calculating navigation system. Wind currents funnel the insects straight toward atmospheric low-pressure zones. These zones are exactly where opposing currents collide and drop rain, a meteorological funnel delivering the swarm directly to newly growing vegetation. In the physical world, this atmospheric target manifests as dark, heavy storm clouds breaking open over the dry desert scrub. Riding the weather patterns that create their food, the swarm acts as a self-guided missile, using atmospheric physics to hunt down the planet's most fleeting resources. As these wind funnels drag multiple separate swarms into the same rain zones, the groups collide in the sky, merging to form massive, sky-darkening plagues. The mathematics of this final stage are terrifying. The population explodes to several billion strong, creating an incredibly dense concentration of bodies that literally blocks out the sun. This singular biological mass can stretch up to 40 miles wide, blanketing entire towns and highways in a living, moving sheet. They descend on the landscape and systematically strip away every single edible piece of vegetation that lies in their path. But their exponential growth contains a fatal flaw. They are so thoroughly efficient at consuming the environment that they rapidly outpace the food supply, starving themselves out of existence in a matter of days. Once the final green leaf is gone, the biological engine stalls. The steady roar of a billion beating wings slows down and quickly fades away. The massive invasion ends as abruptly as it began. The quiet returns, leaving nothing but the sound of the desert wind, and a fresh generation of invisible eggs buried deeply in the sand. The desert locust perfectly exploits a brief window of rain, exhausts the landscape entirely, and then simply outweights the harsh environment.